It's your deliciously eccentric and slightly peculiar friend and professional tarot reader, Nick Dutch, back again for another delightful video on the cards. Now today's a bit different in terms of the cards I'm showing you because I'm showing you a different style of tarot. Now this is it's another 78 card pack, okay? So you can still use it for playing the game tarot. You can still use it for as a regular pack of playing cards if you take out the major arcana and remove one of the court cards from each suit. But it's different. Now this one's by Linda Parker, okay, and it's fun. Alright, I'm going to start off by just saying it's fun. I mean, I think the fact you put a monogram on the back, which means that you can't really use it with reversals with the same ease you could a regular pack of cards, because you can tell when it's reversed. I don't think you should actually have that if you're using it for a divination deck, but I'm showing you this one because it's fun. I got it recently for a laugh. I felt like something a bit more dark and slightly macabre and a bit cartoony, and this one like fits the bill. Now with every type of media or art or literature which is out there, it's kind of self-selecting, because there's only, different people will be attracted to different types of imagery, and therefore it's for its own demographic. This one has a more fantasy appearance and more of a Wiccan style appearance. It calls itself Tarot Familiars, and therefore it's got little fun animal images on it, and it's got some vaguely Wiccan type imagery as well. So let's just have a quick look through just for a laugh. That's their version of the Fool. It's completely like non-traditional, but kind of like good fun too. And it's got a nice soft fluffy pussycat on it, and we all like soft fluffy pussycats, so, just like compulsory. Again, the Magician is a complete departure from tradition, and it's much more your late night sci-fi channel interpretation of magic type thing, really, if you think about it. But again, very, very beautiful. I mean, with all this fantasy art, your eye might just skate over the image, but we forget how much artwork and how much effort these artists put into creating fantasy style artwork. And it really is rather a lot, and there's a lot of attention to light and shadow and the generation of an atmosphere, which is most important. So with this one, they've got a combination between almost like American Indian type imagery there, mixed with your, Celtic knotwork style, and it's horses, if you like that sort of thing. But it's pretty imagery, and I think it's good because it's pretty imagery, and I think it's fun because it's pretty imagery. And yes, it's got its own little book of instructions and meanings to go along with it, so it's still following the ancient tradition from Europe, which has a knowledge of this particular method going back to at least 5 centuries. Okay, because a pack of images, cards with images of animals on it, was discovered as a result of archaeological digs, and it had a book of instructions with it as to what all the meanings of all the birds and animals on the cards actually meant. So it's still following the ancient tradition. This one's rather odd, really, if you think about it. You've got like a female character almost looking like Little Red Riding Hood coming straight to face with a wolf, and yet it's the Lover's card. So it's more of a challenging image rather than, let's say, the image of responsibility, which we see in the Parting of the Ways cards. And what the heck? This is the internet. So have your bit of soft fluffy pussiness. There you go. Right, okay, where was I now? So essentially, that's more like grandma, what big teeth you've got, rather than romantic love, rather than something along the lines of making big decisions about your life. Well, you could, depending upon how you interpret it, of course. I mean, you can take something simple and then go into it in much greater depth. I mean, I could just like spend ages just going through each and every single one of the majors on this in this pack, but that could actually be really rather boring for you, the viewer, because one way in which this pack really demonstrates what it's really about is when you get onto the minors. Alright, just put all the majors aside, boom, and here we have the much more typically fantasy style interpretation of the suit of wands. I mean, you can really tell what a tarot pack is about by their interpretation of staves or wands. Remember that originally the staff suit referred to sport because it was a hockey stick, okay? Because the four suits represent commerce being coins, social interaction being cups, conflict being swords, and staves being sports. So essentially, instead of sports, you've got like a Harry Potter-esque magic wand and a spell book. So that points out that this is taking its meaning and its message from the from popular media, as well as from pagan imagery from this era. And the court cards are based upon animals. So you got the different traditions of popular media, modern day Wicca or witchcraft, as well as this connection to, I suppose, a folklore-y kind of image. I mean, again, the artwork on the court cards is pretty staggering, really, if you think about it, considering that this is a pack of tarot cards. Okay, you know, it's really rather good, but it doesn't necessarily contain the references to tradition. In fact, it's trying to create its own new tradition based upon the kind of imagery that the kind of person who would be interested in this style of look would be after. Okay, that's the art. Okay, the art is them creating something which connects with what the audience requires. You can possibly hear my cat meowing in the background. I think the way the swords are drawn are quite good too, so that's great. But you know, it feels very British Isles shamanic. It feels very Wiccan. It feels very fantastical. But I guess it's more of a kitsch type tarot deck. I mean, you can still use it. You can still understand it. You still get the feelings for what they're trying to evoke. But you also got to think about, if you're a professional tarot reader, what kind of event would you take a pack of tarot cards like this to? It would probably be much more sort of like earth-orientated psychic fair, much more pagan-orientated psychic fair, much more to do with certain forms of specific spiritualities, rather than necessarily something you could take to a Christian spiritual healist church if you were called to do readings in that kind of an environment. As I said before, you know, the deck you take with you has to be, you know, like wearing the right uniform for the right occasion, and it's got to reflect the needs and desires of the people that you're dealing with. Okay? I mean, the Silver Pentacle is very beautiful, but does it represent the earth? Does it represent commerce? Does it, you know, it looks more like it's drawn like a lucky charm or a pendant, more than something which could actually be used in commerce. So it's not really summing up traditional interpretations. And of course, in general, the pip cards are just repeated symbols, so they don't necessarily have any kind of like deeper intuitive energy or feeling to them, which is quite common with some tarot decks. But if you think about the quantity of imagination and hard work that would have to go into the creation of all of the minors, because if you think about the number of cards there are, the quantity of work to have to go into it is like a lot. And I think the artist, Linda Parker, or Lisa Parker, sorry, or whoever it is she commissioned to do the artwork, has spent a lot of time and energy focusing heavily on these majors and trying to create something that would suit the audience. So it's not really high magic. It's not even, you know, 100% Wiccan tradition. I mean, it doesn't really have very strong god and goddess type images to it. So it's not necessarily a worshipful tarot deck for the Wiccan community. And it's trying to maintain a combination between modern magic imagery as well as fantasy art. So I just thought I'd show that to you today. Speak to you soon.